Everyone, I'm the Weather Dude. Welcome back, and today we're going to be talking about the massive coastal storm that's going to be making its way up the East Coast later this weekend into early next week. As always, be sure to like and subscribe as it does help the channel out a lot. And be sure to, of course, watch the video the whole way through to get the best weather content. And we're just going to get right into it here, starting with the precipitation maps to see what places are lacking in precipitation and what some places have excesses in precipitation right now. So as you can see, for much of the mid-Atlantic and Northeast, we're seeing a deficit in precipitation. I mean, most areas are seeing like 50 to 75% of their normal rainfall in the last 30 days. So like from Richmond to Washington to Philadelphia, New York, Boston, all the way up Portland, Maine. Right? In some places, even 25 to 50% of their normal rainfall. Right, so we're lacking on the last 30 days here, but towards the south, for example, in the Carolinas, we're seeing an excess, right? Some areas seeing 1.5 to 2 times the rain, and some localized areas 2 to 3 times their normal rainfall in the past 30 days. Right, so this is what the rainfall map's looking like right now. But for a majority of the areas, especially from Virginia to Maine, we could use this rainfall that's coming up with this storm here. And this storm, by the way, I mean, it's pretty big. All right, so let's take a look at the modeling here. And let's start off with the GFS model. And as you can see we had some rain showers, this little band from this low pressure system, all right, kind of moving in last night here. So the remainders of that will be moving away. And then you can see the low starting to form. I mean, this is like 36 hours out. So this will be here by like basically tomorrow afternoon, Sunday afternoon, and lasting into early next week for some of those in the Northeast. So 990 millibar low. The rain shield is absolutely massive. All right, winds will be howling as well in some areas. I'll be showing that as well. There's also another little low pressure system, kind of like that upper the disturbance that's sitting over the Midwest still. That's still there, and that's helping to still produce some light rain and snow showers over the Great Lakes and upper Midwest. But you can see the low strengthens and it deepens, and we got 980 millibar low now. At this point, it's kind of like merged with that other one. That's another reason why it's strengthening. All right, massive low pressure center. We got heavy rain for the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, and winds, again, very strong as well. So you can see the storm moving up to the north, and even some rain showers still, because the low will kind of make like a left-hand turn. Inland, Northeast, Midwest, we'll still see some rain and even some snow, yes. On May 2nd, Western and Central PA could even see some snow. Perfect timing, too, because it is the morning, which means higher probability of colder temperatures. And we can see that snow coming down, but it will probably turn back to rain, as you can see here by the afternoon, except in those higher elevations. But rain could still be lasting according to the GFS model, could even linger if that little disturbance the upper level disturbance hangs back a little bit. Maybe it could linger into Tuesday afternoon. But anything that lingers in the midweek, like you see Wednesday here as well, will just be light rain showers. Then, according to the GFS, the low pressure will reform off the East Coast, and we could see some snow for places like Maine. Right, and then of course the low will just kind of scooch on out of here, maybe past Halifax, Nova Scotia, and then that's it. So how much rainfall are we talking about? Okay, this goes through next Thursday, although for most of you the precipitation will be done by Tuesday. But you can see 2 to 4 inches of rainfall for the Northeast, for Pennsylvania up to Maine, right, and even some heavier rain and even some snow there back towards Wisconsin and in the UP and Michigan from that other disturbance. Yes, so 1 to 2 inches of rain for the Southeast. I would say closer to an inch of rainfall. I think the heavier rainfall will be like the northern Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, where again we can see that 2 to 4 inches of rain falling. So again, heavy rain at times. And for these areas, this is normally rain you would see in a month, and it's going to be coming here in a couple of days. So do keep that in mind. All right. So we're going to take a look at our first wind. We're going to take a look at several wind maps. This is our first one here. This is the GFS model, and you can see. Watch this low pressure. All right. So this is Sunday at like 11 a.m. You can see the low is pretty much sitting right here. You can see where the winds are kind of turning counterclockwise. So there's your low pressure. Look at these offshore winds, by the way. And these are wind gusts. And you can see maximum winds could be going up to 63.6 knots. That's our max here. So that means 64, by the way, is hurricane force winds. So we could be seeing hurricane force gusts here. This is like offshore at this point. But watch as it starts to track up the East Coast, right? And you can see now we're seeing 70 knots, right, offshore, but still now in the low is getting over like Virginia Beach. Look at this massive wind field. We're already seeing onshore flows all the way through Nantucket, Boston, Portland, Maine. And these winds will be felt on the coast. This isn't offshore winds at this point. We're talking 42 to 50 knots, so anywhere from like 45 to 55 mile an hour winds and wind gusts. And you can see that will only deepen as we head into Monday morning. We could even, or overnight Sunday into Monday. This is about midnight. Yes, hurricane force wind gusts pretty much right offshore of Massachusetts here, coastal New Hampshire, coastal Maine. Right, but those dark reds do indicate winds closing in on hurricane force gusts, so I would definitely not rule it out for these areas here in New England. So a very strong wind field, and there you go. We have hurricane force wind gusts in those gray areas that is now onshore. So coastal Maine, this is like 2 a.m. Monday morning. Winds of 68.7 knots is the max there. So let me go back to that. So yeah, winds that could be exceeding 74 miles per hour. You can see, again, if we zoom in here, yeah, you can see the winds just hammering coastal New England. So this will definitely be an issue. So not only the 2 to 4 inches of rain, and not only that, but we're going to have the strong winds that will be pushing water onshore. And I hate to say it, it could happen for some of you at high tide. So let's take a look. So this is Nantucket. We're going to look at Nantucket, Boston, and coastal Maine as well for these tide tables. All right, so let's take a look here. So 3:08 p.m. is our low tide. 9:33 p.m. is our high tide on Sunday. So if we go to like Sunday around that time, so for Nantucket, you can already see the winds. You can see Nantucket Island is right here. Wind gusts will be at around 55 to 60 knots, so gusting over 60 mile an hour winds. And that will be at our high tide, and that is an onshore flow. Right? And Boston's high tide is 8:38 p.m. Right, so onshore winds, I mean, even we're going to start to see these onshore winds, by the way. I mean, they might not be too strong, but we're going to see them start to build in here by like tonight, like Saturday night and then overnight. Because you can already see here, while not strong, we're already starting to see that onshore flow building up here. It's a little stronger towards Long Island. You can see this is 8 p.m. tonight. Winds, tropical storm force gusts here for Long Island, for Connecticut, for Rhode Island. And then it's already starting. We got 20 to 25 mile an hour winds, a wind gust for coastal Massachusetts. All right, and while that again is not a lot, considering the winds will be building all day Sunday, you can already see the strengthening right there, and the winds will be lasting a while. I mean, look at the wind field with this thing. I mean, anywhere in the green is at least 20 knots, so 25 mile an hour winds. Gusts. I mean, keep in mind that's still it's not a lot of wind, but a 25 mile an hour gust is definitely nothing to sneeze at here. So this massive wind field, you can even see some yellows. So tropical storm force wind gust over a large chunk of the eastern half of the U.S. As we head into even early next week due to that upper level disturbance that is still lingering around. Right, you can see dissipate as we head into midweek. So here are the tide charts for coastal Maine, and you can see it's about similar to Boston, Massachusetts, right? We're going to see that high tide at 8:35 p.m. on Sunday. So if we go back to that right here, yeah, you can already see winds of 60 knots will be going into coastal Maine as well. So basically, we're still going to be seeing very strong winds, onshore winds at high tide, anywhere from basically Long Island up to coastal Maine. And if we go here, if we look at when the strongest wind is going to hit Maine, right, which is going to be most likely, according to the GFS model, 2 a.m. Monday morning. So if we go here, you can see, actually, let me pull up the chart. All right, here we go. So you can see 2 a.m. here, 2:40 a.m. will be that lowest tide here for Portland, Maine. And if we look here, you can see that's when the strongest winds will be onshore. But again, we will still be seeing winds of like 60 to 65 mile an hour winds here that will still be pushing their way onshore, even at the high tide. All right, so let's skip over now to the Canadian model. You can see here's that low making their way up the east coast. And you can see very heavy rainfall with a rain shield covering half the United States pretty much. I mean, it's going to be a lot. And you can see the low kind of meandering off the coast as we head into midweek. Canadian model precipitation, you can see 2 to 4 inches of rainfall here for basically the northern mid-Atlantic up through the coastal parts of the Northeast and even in the Midwest as well. If we look at windy.com here, we can take a look at the wind forecast as we head into Sunday. You can see the strong winds coming from the south will be pushing on shore and still doing a lot of damage. Of course, be sure to keep everything protected, whether it be plants or any part of your house that you might feel that's vulnerable if you live on the shore, especially. I mean, even inland areas are going to be feeling the wind impacts as well. Even heading into Monday, even heading into Tuesday. So there will still be a lot of wind and rain to be had here. Take a look at the waves now. If we look at the wave heights, you can see this with that wind coming, so will the waves. And waves will close in on 20 feet here for coastal Maine. If we take a look at this right here, 17, 18 feet. I mean, even wave heights of 6 to 8 feet for Long Island, right? And even for coastal the Mid-Atlantic, like Delaware, New Jersey, you can see once the low is closer to the Mid-Atlantic here. Let's actually play that forward. Right about here, you can see as the low makes its way from south to north, you can already see the waves 6, 8 feet starting to build on the coastal Carolinas and the coastal Mid-Atlantic there as well. Let's take a look at the European model here. And you can see here is the storm moving from south to north. You can see right over the Delmarva Peninsula here, and some very heavy rainfall to be had for Boston, coastal Maine, right around Portland. All right, and making its way up, and you can see kind of bending back to where the low pressure kind of combines with that other disturbance that's meandering over the Midwest, and that will lead to some extended periods of rain showers, of course, through midweek, even across the Midwest and Northeast. All right, if we take a look here at the rainfall, you can see 2 to 4 inches of rain. All right, for basically from Delaware all the way up through Maine, even inland into places like Buffalo and Binghamton, New York, even Albany. Could be seeing a couple inches of that rainfall as well. All right, let's take a look at the NAM model, and you can see here's the rainfall coming out the coastal Carolinas. You see that low pressure tracking right up there, then right up the East Coast, kind of like an inland runner here. And you can see there's the rainfall moving through the Northeast. There's the snowfall coming in on the back side. But of course, due to the even though it will be happening, like in this case, for Monday afternoon, the sun angle will be up at its highest. Temperatures will most likely be a little bit warmer. So the snow probably won't stick for too long, even if it does manage to stick. And you can see the snow lingering through Ohio and Pennsylvania as well before the low kind of makes its exit midweek. All right? And if we look here at our rainfall totals for the NAM model, our last model here, you can see again, models are really in agreement here, which I would hope so considering the storm is like a day or two away. But 2 to 4 inches of rain from the northern Mid-Atlantic up to the Northeast. Takeaways here, high wave heights, high wind speeds, so coastal flood warnings and advisories will most likely be issued, and of course that heavy rainfall as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. I am the Weather Dude signing off. Till next time, I'll catch you guys in the next video.